Imagine waking up one day and everyone you have ever known is gone. Not just your family. Your entire tribe, your entire people, everyone who speaks your language, everyone who shares your blood. Gone. You are the last. This is not a story. This is something scientists actually found evidence of. A human so genetically isolated, so completely alone in their bloodline that researchers called it one of the most extraordinary discoveries in the history of genetics. This is the story of the loneliest humans who ever lived. To understand this story, we first need to understand what genetic isolation actually means. Every human alive today is connected to every other human through a web of shared DNA. Go back far enough and we all share a common ancestor. Every single person alive today is your distant cousin. But sometimes through geography, disaster, or extraordinary circumstances, a person or a group becomes cut off from that web entirely. Their DNA stops mixing with anyone else for generations, sometimes for thousands of years, and the result is a human or a people whose genetics tell a story unlike anything else on Earth. Now let's go back 100,000 years to southern Africa. Scientists studying ancient DNA found something that stopped them completely. A population of humans in southern Africa had been living in almost complete genetic isolation for nearly 100,000 years. 100,000 years. To put that in perspective, modern humans only left Africa around 60,000 years ago, while the rest of humanity was spreading across continents, building civilizations and mixing their DNA with dozens of other populations. This group stayed. Their DNA was described by scientists as sitting at an extreme end of human genetic variation, stunningly different from every other population on Earth, including other African populations living nearby. What kept them so isolated for so long? Scientists believe it was a combination of geography and choice. They lived, they survived, they thrived completely alone in their genetic world for 100,000 years. Now let's talk about a group of people who are doing something remarkably similar right now today. North Sentinel Island sits in the Bay of Bengal. It is roughly the size of Manhattan. On it lives a group of humans called the Sentinelese, and they have had almost no contact with the outside world for at least 60,000 years. 60,000 years. They arrived on that island when humans first began leaving Africa, and they never left. Every attempt to make contact has been violently rejected. They do not want the outside world. They never have. In 2004, when the Indian Ocean tsunami devastated the region, a helicopter was sent to check if the Sentinelese had survived. A man on the beach shot arrows at the helicopter. They had survived, completely on their own, as they always have. Their genetics are so isolated that scientists estimate they may have as little as a few hundred people breeding from the same limited gene pool for 60,000 years. Now let's talk about the most isolated individual human ever officially recorded. In 1971, astronaut Alfred Worden was orbiting the far side of the moon in the Apollo 15 command module. While his colleagues walked on the lunar surface, he was on the other side of the moon, completely alone. The Guinness World Records lists him as the most isolated human being ever recorded, separated from the nearest other humans by 3,597 kilometers. No radio contact, no signal, no sound from another human being. He later said it was the best part of the entire mission. I was alone, but I was not lonely, he said. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Now here is what all of these stories have in common. Every one of them tells us something profound about what humans need and what humans can survive without. The ancient isolated population of southern Africa survived 100,000 years of genetic isolation, not through luck but through deep knowledge of their land and each other. The Sentinelese have survived 60,000 years on a tiny island, protected not by technology or medicine but by complete self-sufficiency and a fierce refusal to let the outside world in. And all were in, alone on the other side of the moon. It discovered that isolation, when chosen rather than forced, can feel like the deepest kind of freedom. Isolation is one of the things humans fear most. Science consistently shows it damages the brain, the body, and the heart. But these stories show something else. That isolation forced upon you and isolation chosen by you are completely different things. The ancient population isolated in southern Africa did not suffer alone. They suffered and celebrated and survived together, just without anyone else in the world knowing they existed. The Sentinelese are not prisoners of their island. They are its guardians. They chose it. They still choose it today. And somewhere in the DNA of a person who lived 100,000 years ago, scientists found the story of a people so unique, so separate, so entirely themselves, that the entire scientific world stopped and paid attention. The loneliest humans who ever lived were not lonely because they were alone. They were lonely only by the world's definition, not their own. They had their land, they had each other, they had everything their world had ever given them, and they held onto it for 100,000 years because it was enough. Maybe the real question is not how they survived being so isolated. Maybe the real question is, what did they know about belonging that the rest of us have forgotten?